Welcome to the stream, Bryan. How you doing?
Hey guys, how's it going? Good to
It's
see
great.
It's great. It's great to have you on the show finally.
How'd you sleep last night?
you. Yeah, really well. Actually, no, that's not true.
Oh no?
No, I just
What
started a
happened?
new sauna protocol,
Okay. Break it
and
down.
so it's 200 degrees Fahrenheit, 20
200
minutes.
degrees. Wait, what's the sauna that we do? Isn't it like 130 or something? That's crazy.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I can get my sauna. So
Yeah, how
I've been
much is
nerding
your-
out about saunas
Yeah, yeah.
for a decade now,
Yeah.
and currently my sauna can get up to like 165, and then it'll trip
200
like
degrees.
a heat limit. So
Okay.
I'm not even able to get to that range yet.
You're in the minor
Um,
leagues.
Yeah, it's in the minor leagues.
Okay, so 200 degrees. What else is special about the new sauna routine?
Yes, I read this yesterday. Let's see here. So at 200 degrees, it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to bake an egg until the white is set and the yolk is still soft. So yeah, it's hot. Yes, I've done 7 days now, and my sleep has been disrupted. So I'm still getting
Okay.
good sleep scores. My total time in bed, but my nervous system is pretty high. So
Sure.
yeah, so
What,
I'm going through this
wait,
Wait,
adaptation time.
so
period.
what do you have to? Are you wearing gloves? Are you wearing like any type of protection on your head at 200 degrees? What do you need to actually make it not, cause your hair to fall out
you.
or something like
Yeah,
that?
exactly. So today's day 8. I think I have the system sorted. So I sit on this this ice pack, and then I have another one that I put inside my shorts to cool the testes because it does lower sperm quality.
Sure.
So make sure that the balls need to be cooled. And then I have another ice pack laid over my head because it can make hair brittle and
that
cause
makes
scalp
sense.
irritation. So those seem to be adequate.
Where did
People
this
used to
idea
never
come from?
people used to never believe me when I said I got an
Ice
ice pack
pack,
on
yeah.
Amazon specifically for use in the sauna that
Yep.
is like more like a cup.
Yep.
They discontinued
They
them. I think it
discontinued
was just me and Brian buying them on there.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, it's
special
like-
cup ice packs.
So where did this idea come from? Is there new research, or did you just discover old research? Or I mean, I imagine that you want to know that there's some sort of data out there about the effects of this, or are you just coming up with this idea on your own?
Yeah, I mean, our process has been we've rolled through all the scientific literature and said what things have the very best evidence to improve health span, lifespan, and then we've just gone systematically down the list. And so sauna's always been a target of ours, but most of the data in sauna is observational, which is a lower grade of quality data than interventional, where you say we're going to do this thing and it's going to solve the, whether you're going to see whether that has an effect or not. And so we just finished up with hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and now we're pointed at sauna. So we completed about 40 measurements for sauna baseline, and now we're testing. Like even 7 days in, like I'll tell you, I just did this analysis this morning. I had a 6% drop in my central blood pressure, which is that's an improvement. A 21% improvement in my central pulse pressure, 50% improvement in my augmentation pressure, and 25% improvement in my augmentation index. So we're looking at all these vascular age markers. So even 7 days into sauna, it looks like it's having some meaningful effects in my vascular health.
How are you thinking about the potential of hyperbaric oxygen chambers? It feels like the next frontier. The people that have a cold plunge and a sauna at home are probably, thinking about adding one. You've used them quite frequently, but is that the next trend that you're expecting to see broadly on the hardware side?
Yeah, the hyperbaric was the best therapy I've ever done.
Wow.
And so we've tried so many things, and what was unique about it, it's whole body health improvement. So it improved my brain and my gut and skin and inflammation markers and protein markers that cause Alzheimer's were down. Trying to think others.
Is there an equivalent to like altitude that you're at, or are you just like in the stratosphere? Or is it like you're in Los Angeles, but you're effectively in Denver? Or is it more like K2 or Everest?
Yeah.
Or is it like space?
Yeah, exactly. So what happens is it's a hard shell chamber, and then you pressurize to 2 atmospheres, which is the equivalent of about 33 feet underwater.
Underwater.
So
Got it.
So it's pressurized, and then you breathe in 100% oxygen. So when you breathe in oxygen, the atmosphere is about 21%. So you're getting oxygen through your body, but at this high concentration plus the pressurization, you basically flush your entire body with this 100% oxygen. So it pushes it via the plasma, so it gets it out to all the extremities. and that has an effect of growing new blood vessels, of getting oxygen to parts of your body which you just don't get at. So it's that 90-minute exposure to oxygenation to the entire body that which has this whole body effect.
It seems like a lot of the interventions that you do kind of have, there's some that have power lot outcomes like sleep, diet, exercise, and then there's some that are more on the long tail. How have you thought about, as just being like a science communicator, relaying the relative importance of these? Because some of these seem like they're extremely expensive for a minor gain, but it's worth it for you because you're running the experiment and this is your life. But for other people, it might be a distraction to say, oh, I just need a hyperbaric chamber and then I don't, and then I can eat McDonald's. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the big change for me was in the past few months, I've been able to figure out how to compress everything I've learned into one biomarker. And that I just didn't think that would be possible, because before, if you talk about health, it depends on what era of guru you're in. You know, sometimes it's like NR or resveratrol or cold plunge or sauna or like take your given, a celery juice or whatever. And the marker I think that is actually durable over time is resting heart rate before bed. And so the reason why this is so good is it basically is, if you show me your resting heart rate, I'll see your soul. It's an accounting of your life decisions. And so the thinking is this, that like, so tonight when you go to bed, if you lay your head on the pillow and if you have a wearable, just take a few deep breaths and then look at your resting heart rate. If you don't have a wearable, just take your pulse, do it for 6 seconds, times it by 10. Let's say your resting heart rate is 60 beats per minute. Your singular goal now is to drive that down. And so over the next week or 2 weeks, you want to have that be 55 beats per minute instead of 60. And when you see that happen, your sleep is going to be improved. And when your sleep is improved, you're more likely to exercise. When you exercise, you're more likely to eat well. When you eat well, you're more likely to. So it creates this really positive domino effect. And the other thing it does is it's a check against behaviors that drive your resting heart rate up at night. So a lot of our worst behaviors are between like 5 p.m. and midnight. We're tired, we're stressed, we want to just be left alone because it just all feels too much. And oftentimes food can be a soothing mechanism, or other things, a drink. So activities in that late night, even though they seem soothing to us, they drive up our resting heart rate. And that necessarily reduces your sleep quality, which then reduces your likelihood to exercise. So I now work with all kinds of people, helping them understand which things increase heart rate and which things decrease heart rate. But once you build your life around that, it solves all of the fundamental problems with health that you wanted a basic layer. And then once you get that solved, you can then, of course, ladder up and do other stuff. But really, that's it. Like, that is the marker that you can peg all your life decisions on. It's a really great starting point.
What ingredient are you worried that that we're consuming a lot of, the sort of maybe broader biohacker community is consuming a lot of today, that in 15 or 20 years from now we'll discover is actually terrible for us? Because we've done that a bunch of times in the past. Fat is probably the biggest one. But is there anything that comes to mind that you're kind of wary of, that you're maybe not 100% convicted on yet, but you're starting to
watching it,
spend more time thinking about?
I'll tell you, we got pretty surprised. I was taking rapamycin. This is considered by many in the longevity field as, a very promising drug. And probably anti-aging scientists disagree on almost everything, but there was probably more consensus around rapamycin around than anything else out there. And I was taking it for several years. We meticulously tracked my blood levels to make sure we were on a good dose. But we stopped last year because the side effects were too significant. Like, lipids were being messed up. My blood glucose had some alterations. I had soft tissue infections. And then a month after we stopped, a paper came out that showed that 16 epigenetic clocks showed that it actually accelerated age. So this is not the end all be all to say rapamycin is toast. This is just to say that it's not like a slam dunk easy one. It's complicated. And so I stopped taking that drug. But I guess like it's a good example, to your point, of I think we're in the very early stages of truly understanding anti-aging and biology and certain interventions. I think we're good on sleep and exercise and eating nutritious food, but even then that branches out into some complexity. But I'd say rapamycin is probably, to your point, a really surprising outcome for where emergent consensus has been, and now we're not doing it anymore. And so there's a few other drugs we've been looking at. We have a similar path we're looking at right now, but That's probably one of the bigger ones that I would identify.
Do you think anti-aging will be solved in some form via pharma or a collection of lifestyle decisions, right? Because in many ways, lifestyle decisions today, allow you to have a longer health span, lifespan. But in some ways, we had the founder of New Limit on the show last week, which is working on longevity. In many ways, it feels like if we can all just extend our lives long enough to get the sort of pending miracle drug that adds whatever, another 100 years, 50 years, whatever that number ends up being. But I'm curious how you look at it.
I think we need much more robust interventions, the type that Bryan's working on with New Limit. Did you guys have Bryan on? Yeah. I love what he's building. I'm an investor there. I think that that's a very promising path. And what a lot of people, I think, don't understand with what I'm trying to do is I'm not suggesting that one can jump past 120 or find a path to not die by going to sleep and exercising and eating well. I'm suggesting that this is the most disruptive moment in the history of the human race. We're giving birth to superintelligence. It's going to transform society in ways we can't understand. And in this approaching an event horizon, I'm suggesting literally the only thing we know is that none of us want to die in this very moment. And so I'm really trying to give birth to a new ideology, a new way to understand ourselves as a species. But ideology and philosophy is very hard for people to engage with. So I speak about things that people understand, like going to bed on time and not eating junk food and not basically doing things to slowly kill yourself. That in a few years' time, I think we'll look back at this moment and we'll say that was insanity. In the before the late 2020s, humans used to do things that was some form of slow suicide. Can you believe that? That is just incomprehensible. So really, I guess I'm trying to get at this from a philosophical, ideological, spiritual, cultural perspective by the practices I'm doing now. But I'm grateful that people like Bryan are working on the more robust interventions that actually will meaningfully change how we age.
Are you worried there's not enough companies like New Limit, taking on this monumental task? It feels like, at least within the tech community, there's a bunch of ways, there's a million easier ways to make, $100 million than longevity.
Yeah.
And that automatically, people self-select out of that path.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. And my diagnosis of the situation would be that currently the strongest incentives are pointed at the accumulation of wealth, power, and status. If you look at our day and say, how much effort do we put behind those things? And we do that because when death is inevitable, we've chosen a YOLO game of we're going for epicness, right? Of achievement or of being remembered for a given accomplishment or of status and power in society. And we just haven't crossed over that threshold yet where people really believe that we can begin to dramatically extend our lifespans. And so if AI progresses to a certain point where it even opens the window or a longevity intervention makes a breakthrough where it's like, is this moment really different? Like, people look at the health and wellness stuff. They're kind of like, I don't really care. Like if I lose an extra 10 or 15 years off my life, whatever. I don't want to live those years anyways. I'd rather have this preferred life now. So I think we're just really caught in a cultural moment between the death being inevitable and don't die. And it's happening right now. We're starting to cross over. But I think there will be an event or a few events in the coming years which will change it. And the humanity's going to snap and say, I think this might be it. And I think we'll have a big cultural shift.
How do you think about this internal motivation as something that can overpower an unhealthy lifestyle? I'm thinking about Warren Buffett drinking 6 Coca-Colas a day, kind of rejection of everything that we know about health and wellness.
Yeah.
And yet he's been phenomenally successful and performant in a very stressful, important job for 7 decades or something like that. Donald Trump's in a similar category. It seems like there's something to the motivation and the human will potentially, but is that just all pseudoscience in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, people, they do reference Buffett. a lot, right? And it's like also it's like someone's grandma who lived to be 102 who drank and smoked every day.
Yeah.
And those examples are just not practically relatable, right? Like those are genetic differences that they won the genetic lottery and they lived despite their choices. But if most people do what they do, they would die prematurely. But I think it really comes back to the ideology that Warren Buffett played a game in life about asset accumulation, right? Like, and he won the prize. I mean, he's arguably the best investor of all time. So he really played that game very well. And so the question is, if you were to basically take a Warren Buffett-like persona today, what would they do? Would they try to amass assets or would they try to amass existence? And so what I'm suggesting right now is the highest ROI investment anyone can do is to stay alive. And that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to basically, I've attempted to become the healthiest person on the earth, like with the best biomarkers to demonstrate a new game of status and accomplishment is here. And it's about health and wellness, and it's about your ability to exist. And so this will take time because it's a massive shift in our culture. But really, it's just like whether we've agreed to this explicitly or not, we've all agreed to this wealth, power, and status game, and we play it independent of whether we're aware of it. And I'm just trying to say that is a game. It will shift, and a new cultural emergence will arise, and don't die will be the prominent thing we'll focus on.
Last question I have: do you think people pay too much attention to scaled data sources, like the concept of blue zones? Right? Should individuals be focused on highly personalized health and the approach that you're taking, which is sort of real-time experimentation, rapid testing? Because even I'm curious if you have any type of thesis here, but I think many people have said that Japan having this immense longevity might actually just be pension fraud. And I don't, because people have an incentive to
that's funny.
People have an incentive to say like, yeah, grandma's still kicking. Keep giving us the 10K a year or whatever.
Funny.
I'm not making any accusations myself, but
I'm 65. I think people retire next year.
People love to read into this region they're drinking 2 glasses of wine, so I should drink 3 and I'll be okay.
Yeah. I mean, what you're touching on is a real problem where if somebody encounters the idea of wanting to be in good health for whatever reason, like let's just say a person wants to be hot, right? They want to look good and be hot. Then the next question is, what do you do? And once you step out into the world and you say, what do I do? You're faced with hundreds of different opinions, and they're all in conflict with each other. And then if you take another scenario where somebody's got something that they're dealing with, they have constant headaches, or they have sleep apnea, or they have an autoimmune disorder, or take your thing, they've got a complicated situation. What do they do? And so up until this point, you've had to go about and navigate the world of experts. Now these AI tools are better than almost all the experts in helping people solve their given problem. And so the next thing to close this loop is, now that we've got a source of advice that is reliable and that everybody has access to, is now really a function of measurement. Is can you actually get data that then improves the AI's ability to make very precise assessments? And so that's what I'm working on personally. Is I've become the most measured person in human history, and I've seen firsthand when you have data, it's incredibly helpful to figure out what's happening. And when you don't have data, you're in the dark poking around. And so we're trying to figure out how to scale data and access, because once you pair that with the AI, then the question of what to do becomes so simple, which again is why I believe we're at this moment of shifting dramatically, where the complexity and the friction between someone saying, I want to be healthy, and knowing what to do is extremely short. Whereas now it's like so big and so complicated, it's like, honestly, not doing it. So I think we really are, like, this moment is so rich and has such high potential. It hinges on data. With a closed loop with AI, I think we're off to a new race.
It's exciting.
All right. Very exciting. Well, come back on when you have more news.
Yeah.
Always welcome.
This is amazing.
Cool.
Thank you
Thanks
so much
for making
stopping
time.
by.
Yeah, good hanging with you guys. Be well.
We'll
Cheers.
talk to you soon. Bye.